Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prittaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome for this 15th class of Bhakti Shastri. Today we'll be starting with the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. This is a very wonderful chapter and which speaks about transcendental knowledge. So after Krishna has spoken to Arjuna much about Buddhi Yoga in the 3rd chapter, so the 3rd chapter explained that lust covers knowledge and that ignorance will bind us in this material world. And that is why dutiful detached work or karma yoga is only what is dutiful detached work? It means that when you gain transcendental knowledge, then you will be able to do this particular dutiful detached work. So chapter 3 glorifies transcendental knowledge as, it will elevate us from Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma Yoga. And it will award a particular person the intelligence, the strength to overcome these lusty desires, which is the most devouring enemy of the living entity. And it will also, the transcendental knowledge will also purify our consciousness from the mode of passion to the mode of goodness. So chapter 4 will emphasize what is transcendental knowledge and how to receive this transcendental knowledge, because if you see in the 30th shloka of the 3rd chapter, that to perform the highest level of karma, you have to surrender everything to Krishna. And at least one must know who Krishna is. Whom do I want to surrender to? Who is that person? What are his glories? To whom am I going to actually surrender to? So in chapter 4, if you see, we'll be seeing that we'll be seeing the transcendental knowledge about Krishna. Krishna himself will speak about what is this transcendental knowledge, how it should be received, and how to apply this transcendental knowledge, how to understand Karma Yoga on the platform of Jnana Yoga. So when you say transcendental knowledge, knowledge means Jnana. But then understanding Karma Yoga on the platform of Jnana Yoga, how can I perform my detached actions in Krishna's service? And then what are those different sacrifices required to gain this transcendental knowledge? And this is what Krishna will be actually telling in this particular chapter. So let's move to the chapter. So if you see what, I'll just share His Grace Radheshyam Prabhu's slides. This is what he had taken during the Corona time. So then this is the revision of chapter number 3. This is what he's saying is, that revision of chapter 3, that he says that renunciation of work. Arjuna is asking, what is better? Renunciation of work is better, or karma yoga is better. So then Krishna took Arjuna from karma kanda to karma yoga to jnana yoga and to bhakti yoga, and then who are those exemplary karma yogis, and then who's the enemy of the soul. So this is what we had seen in the 3rd chapter. Now in the 4th chapter, Prabhuji has put acronyms for every chapter. Years means when you're gaining transcendental knowledge, then you have a good year. You're listening to that transcendental knowledge. So the first is eternal knowledge and how to attain this particular eternal knowledge. So lineage of the transcendental knowledge, parampara, the saintly kings understood this imperishable science of Jnana Yoga through the chain of disciplic succession, evam parampara praptam, originating from me, Lord Krishna, who gave this knowledge to Vivaswan, and Vivaswan gave this knowledge to Manu, and Manu gave it to Ishvaku. So this is what he's saying in the first 2 shlokas. And then he's, giving that the Vedas state that the plants have life provided by Jagdish Chandra Bose. Description of the human embryology scriptures matches the modern day medical science. So Vedas state that cow dung is pure. And in the 1940s, the scientists discovered that cow dung has antiseptic qualities. So again, modern man is also turning to yoga. So what is Prabhuji trying to say over here is that whatever knowledge we are getting from the disciplic succession, that knowledge is only true. The Vedic knowledge, that is true. And he's mentioning about all our 4 sampradayas also over here. And this knowledge has been carefully, handed over through the chain of disciplic succession through our acharyas. And Prabhupada is saying that our teachings are authoritative, pure and safe because they are based on the works of Srila Prabhupada coming in the Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we belong to the Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then he starts with the 3rd shloka. So why is Krishna giving this particular knowledge to Arjuna? Because he's a friend and devotee to Krishna. Then Arjuna is questioning actually. That atheistic people also consider Krishna an ordinary man and may not believe that he instructed the sun god. So Arjuna is questioning that, okay, so Arjuna wanted Krishna to authoritatively establish the truth about himself. And now Krishna is answering those questions. I'll quickly run through this particular slide so that it's just an overview of what we'll be studying. So there are a number of editions of the Bhagavad Gita, and some of them have commentaries, you can say by the devotees, some of them have commentaries by the demons. So commentaries by the devotees is dear, whereas by the demons is useless because it's not going to lead you to any path. And Arjuna is accepting authoritative knowledge from Krishna himself. And we also have to follow in the footsteps of Arjuna. So Prabhupada is actually mentioning that the demonic, however, do not accept Lord as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of instruction. He is warning about such misleading path. So Krishna is saying that my birth and death are not like yours. So there is no birth for Krishna. Krishna is Aja, and there is no death for Krishna. And what is the uniqueness of Krishna's appearance? So then Prabhuji is comparing about spiritual beauties and material beauties. Real marble and fake marble. Real money, real currency and fake currency. How you can identify. Real mango juice and imitation mango. So what is spiritual beauty? What is material beauty? And then what is the divine nature of Krishna's appearance? So why did Krishna appear? So to establish dharma, and whatever dharma was actually not in a proper place, then he came to re-establish that dharma, because adharma had risen a lot. And then why was it so necessary for Krishna to appear in his original form? So Krishna came, so this is the purpose of Krishna's appearance. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrita dharma sansthapan. So to give enjoyment to his devotees and to re-establish the religious principles. That's in the eighth. And then how does one does not take rebirth upon leaving this body? Then he says about Janma Karma. This is a very famous shloka. And who are those knowers of Krishna's love? And who can really know Krishna? So then Vitraga Bhaya Krodha Manmanaya Mam Upashrita. He speaks about this shloka in the next. And these are all the activities of Krishna that he did. These are all superhuman activities that Krishna did when he was there in Dwapar Yuga. And that is why Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. So he's saying that give up Raga, attachment, Bhaya also, because you have a spiritual identity, and Krodha. So Krodha is also just a conception of void from frustration. And then he starts with what is the accurate understanding of Krishna? Do all paths not lead to the same goal? Why is the worship of many gods? Is caste system not exploitative? So recently also we have this discussion in the news channels about uniform civil code. Krishna, the creator and culmination of all the paths. So Krishna's dedicated devotees consider his birth and activities to be divine and eternal. But others who are approaching him with different goals do not consider it so. And then Krishna is reciprocating also with his devotees according to the mood of the worshipper. So, ye yatha maam prapadate tam tathas bhajame. So, if by worshipping Krishna, one is awarded with whatever he wants, why do people worship others with material desires? Then ahead he says that people worship demigods because they want quick results. And the path of bhakti and gyan give liberation, but path of karma leads to bondage. So does this mean that there is some inequality in Krishna, the creator of all paths? He says no. No, Krishna has created 4 varnas for people who have particular desires for enjoyment. Then Chatur Varnamaya system. And then Krishna himself appeared in a Kshatriya family, and he performs all the obligatory activities as a Kshatriya. So then how to understand his activities? Then Krishna himself will only say that, okay, namam karmani limpandi name karma phalaspriha. So he himself is saying that I am actually not the doer of these activities, and all these karmas do not affect me, but still I do karma. So by understanding this about me, all the liberated soul in ancient times did their work without desire. So having said this, one has to work according to the examples of previous bona fide devotees. Krishna will now explain why one's action should be independent. Okay. Then he says, removing reactions. How will you remove reactions? So then the laws of karma are very, very intricate. And one who is seeing action in action and action in action is very intelligent person. And then he explains about the whole karma cycle, like how cashier is receiving lakhs on behalf of the bank, but he does not keep even a single penny. Or a soldier who's working on the war front, he is awarded a Paramveer Chakra, but if he kills his neighbor, then he'll be arrested. And Arjuna was also fighting for Dharma Yuddha. So Arjuna will not be punished by the laws of karma. And Duryodhan fighting for his, because Duryodhan is fighting for his own selfish desires, then he will be punished. So then the science of karma will be explained again. We make our own destiny by our own karma, because our own actions only will decide what our destiny will be. So karmavad means everything is in my hands, I'll gain success. And deviBhagavatam means what? Everything is in the Supreme Lord's hand. Nothing is in my hand. And then what are those qualities of person who is in a state of inaction, akarma? So he'll be explaining. We have seen karma, akarma, and vikarma in Ishopanishad. So Krishna is going to actually explain this again. So Krishna will explain what is yajna. Again, he's explaining yajna in spiritual consciousness. Or what is it? And again, Prabhupada in every purport will be explaining that what is the best yajna for this particular age. And then, when Krishna explained that sacrifice uncovers, the Brahman, and Krishna is now listing different types of sacrifices. So what are these sacrifices? Demigod worship, Brahman worship, mind control, sense enjoyment, self-control, charity, austerity, mysticism, scriptural study. This is also sacrifice. And that is why if you see, Srila Prabhupada has established Bhakti Shastri course, Bhakti Vaibhav course, Bhakti Vedanta course, Bhakti Sarvabhauma course. So these are all gradations. First is Bhakti Shastri, then is Bhakti Vaibhav. Bhakti Vaibhav is a systematic study of from Canto 1 to Canto 6. Bhakti Vedanta is from Canto 7 to Canto 12. Bhakti Sarvabhauma is the study of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrita. So all these are different types of sacrifices, and that is why Srila Prabhupada wanted that we devotees, or all his disciples and grand disciples and great grand disciples, should be doing such courses as a matter of sacrifice. So when you do these sacrifices, then all our sinful reactions are destroyed, and without sacrifice, then nobody can be happy. And that is why there are different types of sacrifices described. Then this is Brahman, then this is Jnana, and then that is why the result of Jnana will be that Jnana means knowledge. So if you have knowledge, then you will not be bewildered. And in any difficult situation, you won't be bewildered. Otherwise, without Jnana, a person will be bewildered. Then there is bestows pure vision, which means what? You have a lot of clarity. That, okay, what do I want to do in my life? Okay, do I want to become a karmi? Do I want to become a karmakandi? Or do I want to become a pure devotee? And of course, because we have accumulated a lot many sins from past birth, it is destroy. And destroy even all the reactions also. So see, only Krishna has that power to change your destiny. For example, in my destiny, it was written that I will be a beggar and I will suffer. But because I became a Krishna devotee, because I became a devotee of Krishna, and I took initiation into a proper sampradaya, my destiny changes. And to that extent that my destiny changed, that all my sins and all my, the sins right from the seed. So even if I had some desires of doing some sins in my past birth, from the seed level, they get destroyed. So this is the power of devotional service. And then so if you have acquired knowledge, then that knowledge has to be backed up by faith. If you do not have faith, then what will happen? Who cannot attain Gyan? So one who does not have faith will not have Gyan. So reaction of free will. So Arjuna is finding certain statements contradictory, and then again he's questioning to Krishna. And in the next chapter, then he'll be questioning to Krishna about certain contradictory, what do you say, contradictory knowledge, whatever he has got from Krishna. So let's move to the first shloka. It's a very wonderful shloka because the Supreme Lord is answering Arjuna. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manur Ishvakave Abravet. So Krishna says, the personality of Godhead said, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to sun god, Vivasvan. And Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind. And Manu, in turn, instructed it to Ishvaku. So this is actually the chain of disciplic succession, where this chain was broken in between. After Ishvaku, this chain was broken, and that is why to re-establish this chain of knowledge, Krishna again speaks the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Arjuna is actually not, Arjuna is in a proper consciousness, but by the will of the Lord or the plan of the Lord, Krishna puts him in that situation of bewilderment. And because he is bewildered, then something good comes out from his, mouth, and he's questioning Krishna. And when he's questioning Krishna, Krishna is answering the same knowledge that he has got. So somebody might question that, okay, in this millennium, sun god is known as Vivasvan, the king of the sun, which is the origin of the planet. So what is the proof? Then Brahma says, actually, because we go by Shabda Praman. We, at many times, we don't go by Anuman Praman. Anuman Praman means guesswork. Okay, it might be like that, it might be. No, but we go by Shabda Praman. And any statement that has been made, we have three parameters for that particular statement. Is it according to Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra? So then Brahma says that Yat Chakshuresha Savita Sakalam Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Reshisha Teja Yasyangana Brahmati Sambramita Kala Chakra Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So then the sun represents the eye of the Lord and trances it, orbits in obedience to his order. So on whose order is even all these planets working? They are working under the direction of the Supreme Lord. And who is the king of all the planets? The sun. So, and the sun god is Vivasvan. So, this is what is being said. And then, what is the history of the Gita? Then, the history of the Gita has been given away. Treta Yugadhav cha tadadho Vivasvan manavedadhav manascha lokabriti artham sutayak chave kave dadhav ishvako nana cha kathito vyapya lokan avastitaha. So in the beginning of the millennium known as Treta Yuga, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivasvan to Manu. And because Manu was the father of mankind, then he gave it to his son Ishvaku. Okay, and then the Ishvaku comes in the Raghu dynasty, where Lord Ramachandra appeared. Okay, the Surya Vamsha. So, and then Prabhupada is giving a history that how many years have passed and how many years even the Gita was spoken. What is the history of Gita? So when we are doing book distribution, we can give this, that see, this is Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal. Okay. And this knowledge was given how many years back? It was given so many years back in Treta Yuga. Okay, so this is the extent of, you can say 2 million years before this knowledge was spoken. So do we have any record of any scripture which was before these many years. Do you all have a record? So with this, our basis becomes very strong. And when we are confident about our own Bhagavad Gita, then people will also have faith in the Bhagavad Gita and they will pick up the Bhagavad Gita and start reading. So when we will have that faith in Bhagavad Gita, so like you need to, like for example, a particular salesman, okay, he knows his product in and out. A particular person is selling MacBook, a particular person is selling a mobile phone. So what will he do? He will know his product in and out, right? He has studied that product in and out. He's experienced that product in and out. And so he'll be able to pitch very nicely, right? Similarly, of course, I'm not saying that the Bhagavad Gita is a product of it is a divine, granth. It is a divine book. But if I myself have not studied the Bhagavad Gita, if I myself have do not have enough faith or nishtha in the Bhagavad Gita, then I won't be able to convince the other person that why you should read the Bhagavad Gita, right? So we ourselves should have a very firm conviction about the Bhagavad Gita, and before that we should have read the Bhagavad Gita at least once, so that we'll be able, because when you go out for book distribution, it's not like that it's a very smooth sale and you get people who will be who are waiting only, oh, we were just waiting for you, please give us the Bhagavad Gita. No, there will be people who will be challenging, and especially when we go to the corporates and we actually distribute Bhagavad Gita, because we every year go to the corporates and we distribute the Bhagavad Gita. So the corporates are a little intellectual class of people, and they are definitely going to do, of course, they will not be very challenging, but they will have counter questions, they will have their queries, they will have their doubts. And it is so important to know our Bhagavad Gita and study our Bhagavad Gita and have that firm conviction that yes, I have been following this Bhagavad Gita, I have been living this Bhagavad Gita from past 25 years or 30 years or whatever it is. And I have experienced a great change. So here I am standing in front of you, a living example that the Bhagavad Gita has worked upon me. And still, I am also a working professional. I have not quit my job. I have not quit anything. I'm just balancing the two properly, and I'm living according to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. So many people have a lot of misconceptions about the Bhagavad Gita, which means that they think that Bhagavad Gita is telling that please renounce everything and go to the jungle. So many times religion has been molded in such a way by the media, by different people, by different sects of the society, that to become a devotee of the Supreme Lord means to renounce everything. But if we have studied the Bhagavad Gita properly, then we will have a very firm conviction that Krishna is not asking Arjuna to renounce. Krishna is asking Arjuna to do his own prescribed duties and fight for the Supreme Lord. So that conviction, if we have while reading the Bhagavad Gita, and of course we are applying it also into our life. So Bhagavad Gita is not only a religious book that you read and you close it and you say, okay, fine, I'm like, okay. No, on a daily basis, whatever we are studying, we are applying the Bhagavad Gita into our lives. So we are living that Bhagavad Gita. And that is, it is so important that when we go out for preaching, because see, we are representing our parampara. We are the representatives of Brahma Madhav Gaudiya Sampradaya. We are representing Srila Prabhupada. We are representing ISKCON. And we know that ISKCON is Prabhupada and Prabhupada is ISKCON. So that conviction we should have. If people will see, okay, ये लेला पेला है, इसको कुछ पता ही नहीं है, भगवद गीता बांट रहा है, लेकिन he himself does not have that knowledge, then why will that person buy? Why will that person, on what basis will he buy? So purity is the force. So when that is why Prabhupada says, why purity is the force, that I am studying the Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis, and I'm applying those principles in my life. And that is why it will reflect on, it will reflect, externally, that yes, there is. Now, why do you think, there are so many, like His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu or His Grace Vijay Prabhu? These are all, you can say, book distributing dons in book distribution. So why do you think that, His Grace Navina Nirada Prabhu or His Grace Mohan Rao Prabhu or His Grace Madhusundar Prabhu, they are the ones who are living this Gita, and they are able to convince. Their conviction is so pure that anybody who comes in contact with them is surely to buy the Bhagavad Gita, surely, definitely to buy the Bhagavad Gita. And it's not like that, many times what happens, book distributors tell us our stories. I'm sorry, today it's not like a book distribution class or something, but because I have been a book distributor from past many years, I feel that, this knowledge, if it's given before somebody is doing book distribution, that will help him in his book distribution, and he will be more motivated to do book distribution betterly. So this knowledge, when you have, you will definitely see that the other person will, and this year's book distribution, what I realized is that previously when we were doing book distribution, we were for numbers. Okay, how many numbers, like 20,000, 30,000. So the last year, the book distribution count for our group was almost 25,000 Bhagavad Gitas we had done. But this year we did very less Bhagavad Gitas. And what did we decide that we will focus more on giving every person time to explain the importance of the Bhagavad Gita. Like previously, for example, in 3 to 4 minutes, we used to distribute one Bhagavad Gita. And, okay, fine, you take the Bhagavad Gita and move off. Like, but this time we actually spoke to every person in person, gave them that personal touch, gave them that why is it so important to read the Bhagavad Gita, and we quoted many examples from different devotees' lives also. We showed them some videos also, and we spent some quality time with those people and inspired them to read the Bhagavad Gita. And whoever were interested, then we got them connected also to our, the DYS program that we do. So that's how we planned it out in corporates also, and on, the 4 crossings that you have, the red signals and all. We actually spoke to every person. So the book distribution count was a little less this time. But yes, ultimately we were very satisfied that we were able to cater to everybody's needs, what they wanted, what they were asking, what were their questions, what were their doubts. We were able to sell that. But why were we able to solve the doubts? Because we are reading the Bhagavad Gita on a daily basis. And that's how the Bhagavad Gita, when we do book distribution, then it is very essential that we give them this knowledge. And sometimes people might ask, okay, kitne saal pehle hai Gita tha? Then you can tell, okay, these many years. And they will be astonished that he is able to give the right number. So then this Bhagavad Gita was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna 5,000 years ago. This is a rough estimate of the Bhagavad Gita according to Gita itself, because Lord Krishna is the speaker. So it was spoken to sun god Vivaswan, and the sun god Vivaswan is also a Kshatriya, and his descendants, they are also Kshatriyas. And Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas. So the essence of the Vedas is there in the Bhagavad Gita. And then we have seen, that the Supreme Lord's knowledge is aparosheya. We saw this in Sri Ishopanishad also. Superhuman, aparosheya means. So, and that is why these Vedic instructions, they are accepted without any human, as they are. Why? Because there is no human interpretation in that. Human interpretation means what? when a human will do his interpretation, because his senses are impure, his senses are imperfect, he will do some malnutrition in that. He will concoct something about that. And that is why Gita should not be accepted, uh, from the mundane interpreters and all these mundane wranglers, because they speculate the Gita according to their own. And that is why Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted in disciplic succession as the Supreme Lord spoke. Let's go to the next shloka. So Krishna says that, okay, then if I don't have to, if I don't have to accept it from the mundane wranglers, then whom do I accept the Bhagavad Gita from? Of course, then evam parampara praptam imam rajasuya vidoha sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So what will happen? That the supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it appears to be lost. This particular, chain was broken and it was lost, and that is why Krishna had to re-establish it. So again, Prabhupada is saying that it should not be accepted according to somebody's personal whims. Very important line. So it will have no value. It will not bring a drastic change in your life. Or a substantial change in your life. Because Prabhupada is saying that as soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of the unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish this disciplic succession. So, see, what is the motive? Original purpose was scattered by the motives. So, what is the original purpose of the Bhagavad Gita? That everybody surrender to the Supreme Lord, right? And then that is why 5,000 years ago, it was detected. Who detected it? The Supreme Lord himself detected. By the Lord himself, the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Gita appear to be lost. So see, the father has detected that, okay, there is some disturbance in my house. Some external people have come up and, some external people have come up and questioned my existence for my own children. Okay. So for example, somebody comes up in your house and says that, say, he is not your father. Somebody else is your father. Okay. So what will the father do? The father will come and, re-establish, right, that knowledge that, see, I am your original father to the children. So this, and the father will give also that, okay, see, my grandfather was this, and my father was this one, and my great grandfather and mother and great grandparents were these. So because somebody is trying to break that chain, the father takes the responsibility to re-establish that chain. And that is why then Krishna actually appeared and said the Gita to re-establish the knowledge. And in the same way, at the present moment, also, there are so many editions of the Gita. There are 700 editions of the Gita. But what do we say is that, okay, there are 700 editions of the Bhagavad Gita. From those 700 editions, please give us testimonies that whose life has changed after reading the Bhagavad Gita. And here, Prabhupada has written the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And only by writing this Bhagavad Gita, a worldwide movement like ISKCON started. Just on the basis of Bhagavad Gita. And which writer, after writing the Bhagavad Gita, has established 108 temples all around the world just in 11 years. Currently, there are 850 temples all around the world. Which writer has written 80 books just in a span of 11 years. So people want chamatkar, people want magic, people want something, some quick results. So here are quick results, because generally when a particular person writes a book, so to write that book, he requires 5 years for publishing. Because what happens, he writes, then it's edited, re-edited, rechecked, and by he keeps on making certain changes and all. And here is Prabhupada, who is publishing his books within 2 to 3, 4 months. Like if you see the Chaitanya Charitamrita, His Holiness Jayadvat Swami Maharaj says that the Chaitanya Charitamrita was published within two months. And we know that the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a big work. It has almost 12 volumes of books, right? And this was within 2 months, okay, with the designing, the editing, the art that is there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If somebody has gone through the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it has taken only 2 months. Now, 2 months for those, volume, those 12 volumes. Don't you think that it is such a, great work? It has been done in 2 months, where 5 years, so 5 into 12, it would have taken somewhere like, 60 years for the publishing of only Chaitanya Charitamrita. And here is Prabhupada, Shaktivish Avatari, specially empowered. And how is he specially empowered? He himself says that I am not writing these books. Krishna is sitting in front of me and he is dictating me, and that is why I'm writing. And that is why his words are aparushaya. His words will not have any defect. And that is why there was no need of editing. And that is why these books got published on a very faster scale, because now who is involved? Krishna himself is involved. And the process became more faster. So this is something very, very, unique in Srila Prabhupada's, lifetime, that he has done something that nobody could do it. Na bhuto na bhavishyato. And nobody will ever be able to do it also. Establishing worldwide movement, and within 11 years, moving around the globe 14 times, it is something incredible. It is something incredible. How much ever I'll glorify Srila Prabhupada, I don't think so I'll be able to give justice to whatever work he has done. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the personality of Godhead Krishna, although they make a good business on the words of Krishna. You can make business on the words of Krishna. Like, for example, this guy who did Maiya Mori Main Nahi Makhan Khayo, whoever make that album, he's become Lakpati, because he's glorified Lakshmipati. He became Lakpati. So he will do good business, but he will not touch the hearts of people. Over here, we are not touching people superficially. We want to touch people's heart by giving them proper knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita. This spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme Lord. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Bhagavad Gita in English, as it is received in Brahmana system, an attempt is made. See Prabhupada's humility. An attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad Gita, except as it is. It is a great boon to humanity. Oh, the Bhagavad Gita is such a powerful statement. It's a boon. भगवान ने हमें ये वरदान दिया है ना? अगर मान लो आपको कोई वरदान देता है, somebody gives you a boon and you don't utilize it, what will people say? Oh, he's a fool. He got a boon, but he didn't, utilize it. But if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculation, it is a simply waste of time. Philosophical speculation, it's a waste of time. Speculation means कि आप speculate करते रहो, भगवान ऐसे होंगे, वैसे होंगे, God might be this and God might be that. You keep on speculating. So then further he says that स एव यं मया ते अद्य योग प्रोक्ताप पुरातन भक्तसी मे सखा चेति rahasya ki etat uttama. So he's saying that why am I giving this knowledge to you, Arjuna? That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. And therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. Very important statement this is. You can underline this. Why these statements are important is that who can understand the transcendental mystery of this science? There's a transcendental knowledge about the Supreme Lord. So either you are a devotee or you are a friend of the Supreme Lord. And when you become a friend or devotee of the Supreme Lord and you surrender to the Supreme Lord, then only you will be able to understand. If you have a selfish relationship with Krishna, then you won't be able to understand. To understand this knowledge, you need to be a selfless devotee. You need to be from that Sakam Karma Yoga to Nishkam Karma Yoga to be on the Bhava and to the Prema level. So Arjuna is on a Prema level with Krishna, and that is why he'll be able to understand this transcendental knowledge. So when we are studying the Bhagavad Gita, we don't study with that intention. Of course, in the beginning we did that, but as and when we gradually, when we are reading on a daily basis this Bhagavad Gita, we know that my relation with Krishna has to be very selfless and not selfish. Otherwise, with selfish relationship, when we see in this material world also, when we have selfish relationships, that relationship does not last a long. You just do little barter exchange with that particular person. You do banyagiri with that particular person, and that relation is lost somewhere. But if you have a selfless relationship with Krishna, then that will go along. So there are two classes of men, namely the devotee and demon. Okay. Demons, what they want to do, they want something from Krishna. Okay. But devotees, they don't want anything from Krishna. So the Lord selected Arjuna as a recipient of this great science owing to his being a devotee. But for the demon, it is not possible to understand this mysterious science. The demon will never be able to understand this. There are a number of editions of this great book knowledge. Some of them have commentaries by the devotees and some of them have commentaries by the demons. Commentation by devotees is real, whereas that by the demon is useless. Useless means it's not going to change your life, right? So when you studied or you read the Bhagavad Gita, maybe you've not understood the Bhagavad Gita, but at least you had some faith and you started reading, and you are over here attending the Bhakti Shastri, you might attend the Bhakti Web of course also and the Bhakti Vedanta also. It is building up your faith in Krishna more and more and more. That's the effect of reading the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna accepts Krishna as the personality of Godhead, and any commentary on the Bhagavad Gita following the footsteps of Arjuna is real devotion service to the cause of his great science, of this great science. The demonic, however, do not accept Lord Krishna as he is. Instead, they concoct something about Krishna and mislead general readers from the path of instructions. Here is a warning about misleading path. One should try to follow disciplic succession from Arjuna and be benefited. So yeah, Prabhupada is advising that try to follow the disciplic succession. And then Arjuna is actually questioning. Okay, so there might be there might be what do you say? People might, Arjuna might have a doubt that how can Krishna, who is the son of Devaki, instruct Vivaswan, who is million years older than him. So Arjuna will present his doubt of the Bhagavad Gita. So now if you see in all these 3 shlokas, okay, the Lord is explaining the science of work. So he explained in chapter 2 and 3, that this is very old, it is authorized also, and he's giving this knowledge also to Vivaswan, and this science was received in the cyclic succession and all. Then who are these people who are qualified to receive this transcendental knowledge? So he's saying that because you are my devotee, because you are my friend, and see, because a particular devotee will be in 5 rasas with Krishna. If you see the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita and you read that to have that relationship with Krishna, then you need some 5 primary rasas. Either you are in Dasya Bhav, either you are in Sakhya Bhav, either you are in Shanta Bhav, Vatsalya Bhav, or Madhurya Bhav. These 5 bhavas, a particular person needs to be with Krishna. Currently, we are in Dasya Bhav. We consider Krishna as our master. Slowly, because see, this Dasya Bhav is included in all other 4 bhavas also, okay, all the 4 rasas also. So, Dasi means what? You're serving the Supreme Lord. So, this Dasya Bhav is in even Vatsalya Bhav also, Madhurya Bhav also, Shanta Bhav also, and Sakha Bhav also, or Sakha Ras also. Because in all these rasas, every devotee who has a relationship with Krishna, they are trying to serve Krishna. They are trying to please Krishna. They are trying to selflessly, selflessly give services to Krishna with an intention that my aim of life is only to please him. मेरा जो अस्तित्व है या मेरा जो existence है, whatever is my existence, is only to serve Krishna. I am created only to serve Krishna. So this is the bhav of all these 5 rasas. Whoever is in relationship with the Lord in these 5 rasas, they have this bhav. So if you see whatever we have studied just now with these 3 shlokas, when we learn this Bhagavad Gita, this knowledge which Krishna is giving Arjuna, then this knowledge will give us faith in what we are hearing, okay. And also additionally, Krishna will claim that he is the original proponent of knowledge, and because he is the original proponent of knowledge, then his position is actually the supreme transcendental position. So because we will have this knowledge, then we'll have faith in Krishna. Currently also we don't have faith in Krishna. Of course, I'm talking about myself also. Why we don't have faith in Krishna? Because our knowledge is not that ripe knowledge. Our knowledge is still a raw knowledge. The moment that knowledge, when you apply it, it will become ripe. Currently, when you don't apply that knowledge, then that knowledge is a raw knowledge. You have knowledge, but you're not applying it, so it is raw. But the moment you apply that knowledge, then that that raw knowledge will become a ripe knowledge. And in that ripe knowledge only you will get realizations. Without ripening, that knowledge will not give you realizations. And the moment you get that realization, then you have more faith. More faith, more knowledge will give more realization. So that is why I always say that knowledge plus application is equal to self-realization. This is the formula for self-realization. That I have knowledge, like see, you have experienced this in your lives also, that somebody told you chant 2 rounds. So, okay. So you got that knowledge. Then what did you do? You started chanting 2 rounds, right? So application. So then what you got? You got some realization. ऐसा नहीं तो पूरा realization था, but some realization you got. Then that realization actually helped you to build up your faith. And from those 2 rounds, you moved up to 4 rounds. Again, a little more. Then you 4 to 6 or 8. And then gradually to 16 and now maybe to 64 also. So this is slowly when you get knowledge. When you don't have knowledge, then you become bewildered. When you don't apply that knowledge, then you become bewildered. I am a devotee of Krishna, still I am sad. I am a devotee of Krishna, still I am not happy. So why am I not happy? Because I am not applying that knowledge. I am taking that knowledge, but I'm not applying that knowledge. The moment I will apply that knowledge, I will have realization. Then I will never go into a sad state. I will never go into a state where I will not be able to take proper decisions. Like if you see currently now in Delhi, of course you see in Delhi there is only floods going on in Delhi. The Delhi devotees will know more better that there is only floods going on. Now that knowledge was given that there will be flood, but nobody did that particular facilities for the citizens of Delhi. So what has happened now? Delhi is in a chaos condition. There is flood everywhere. So when you have knowledge and when you apply it, you will never ever go into a chaos state in your life. You will never be confused in your life. Many people have this confusion that what should I do? For example, somebody's business does not work, okay? So when somebody's business does not work, then what happens? This guy goes into a depression state. He becomes so depressed that ultimately he becomes mental and he has to be put into some mental hospital. So for us, when we have this knowledge and we apply it, we will never go into that particular state. Like recently near my house, there was a fire broken. There was a cloth factory somewhere, I think half a kilometer away from my house. There was a cloth factory and yesterday morning, there was a fire broken out and there were fumes coming out. And we discovered that it was a... Now, this particular owner of this factory, he went into a very bad state. Why? Because he didn't know only that this is on the order of the Supreme Lord. I'm suffering because of my own past bad karmas. I must have definitely done something in my past. That is why this reaction has come to me. Right? So when you have knowledge, you will never ever go into depression. You will never go into a state where you have to leave your rounds, or you leave this particular ISKCON society, or you leave Prabhupada, or you leave your own spiritual master. And that is why very important to take this particular knowledge so that we don't land up into a mess into our lives, and we help others also to come out of the mess from life. Imagine we ourselves are into depression. What are we going to bring out the other person from depression? Right? We won't be able to help that particular person to come out of depression. But when we have right knowledge, we will be able to guide that particular person that what is the cause of your depression. The cause of your depression is too much attachment. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Because there is too much attachment, vita raga, too much of attachment you have. And that is why that is the cause of your depression. That is the cause of your being see, if we see in the society also, people, because they're too attached, they create a havoc in the society, right? They create such a big havoc in the society that there is murder going on and there is some loot going on. But and that is why it is so important that the Bhagavad Gita be given to everybody. The Bhagavad Gita's knowledge be given to everybody so that people come out of that particular state. So now Arjuna is going to have his own doubts. Arjuna will present his own doubts that, okay, Krishna, you are saying this. how did you instruct this millions of years old? Because Arjuna is doubting, Arjuna's question about his doubt is that he wants to, defy these demonic atheistic people who say that, oh, Krishna was just a gwala. You remember Duryodhan? All the time he's saying that gwala, that gwala. And whenever I used to hear those words from Duryodhan, it was so piercing to my heart that why is he calling Krishna gwala? Why is he tagging Krishna by that name? So now because when atheistic and demonic people say that Krishna is ordinary, Krishna wants to speak it authoritatively. And when Krishna will speak authoritatively, the benefit will be that because Krishna's Vani or speech is for the whole world, it's not only for Arjuna. And those who are devotees of Krishna, they will very warmly welcome his speech and they will worship his speech. So that is why you see this particular Grantha. Why do we worship it? Like, people, worship Quran, people worship Guru Granth Sahib, right? So here we are welcoming Krishna's Vani and we are worshipping his Vani. How do we worship his Vani? By reading the Bhagavad Gita every day, we worship his Vani. So, and we are eager to hear more and more about Krishna. On a daily basis, when I'm hearing the Bhagavatam class in the morning, right? I'm eager. Now what will I be able to hear more about Krishna? Like my intention when I joined Krishna consciousness was that only, that I had a condition that only if they speak purely about Krishna and his activities, I will join ISKCON, otherwise I will not join ISKCON. And the first day only I was knocked off by His Grace Krishna Smaran Prabhu, who had come from Delhi. He was giving a class that time. And that day he just spoke about Krishna Leela. So I said yes. I was very eager. The next Sunday I went, I was more eager. Now what will they speak about Krishna? What will I hear more about Krishna? So this is the benefit of Krishna speaking to Arjuna. And he wants the demons to know that, Arjuna wants the demons to know that Krishna is Aparusha, is superhuman. He's transcendental and Krishna is above the modes. He's above time and he's above space. Why? Because Krishna himself says, time I am, right? Time is working under Krishna. The moment Krishna is glancing over the Prakriti or the Pradhan, then what is happening? Time gets agitated. And when time gets agitated, everything starts functioning, right? So, so there might be a question that is Arjuna also sitting on that chariot convinced about Krishna's position? So yes, he is convinced about Krishna's position, and in chapter 10 we will see that how he is mentioning that that Param Brahma, Param Dham, Param Pavitram. So Arjuna is convinced, but the demonic standpoint of view about Krishna's position is that Krishna is not the supreme personality of Godhead, they reject him as the supreme authority, or they do not understand his Vani or speech. So for such explanations, the demonic people, they find these explanations very strange. And because why they find these explanations strange? Because they are studying it from their own viewpoint to extract something for their own benefit. They are actually studying that how can I twist and turn these statements of Krishna. So that is why Arjuna will now question Krishna. So Arjun uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvata katham etad vijananiya tvam adau proktavaniti. So Arjuna is asking Krishna. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? So, this is what Krishna is saying that, Arjuna is saying that, okay, Krishna, you are born in Dwapar Yoga, okay, but sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. He was born before. Then how am I to understand? So, this is a very important, words. Why? How to ask questions. See the way Arjuna is putting. How am I to understand? How am I to understand? This is his humility that he's asking Krishna. So Arjuna is an accepted devotee of the Lord. So how could he not believe Krishna's words? The fact is that Arjuna is not inquiring for himself, but for those who do not believe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for the demons who do not like the idea that Krishna should be accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For them only, Arjuna inquires on this point as if he were himself not aware of the personality of Godhead or Krishna, as it will be evident from the 10th chapter. Arjuna perfectly knew well that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the fountainhead of everything. Krishna also appeared as the son of Devi on this earth. How Krishna remained the same personality of Godhead, the eternal original person, is very difficult for an ordinary man to understand. Therefore, Arjuna wants to clarify this point. Arjuna put this question before Krishna so that he himself could speak authoritatively. Who could speak authoritatively? Krishna could speak authoritatively. And that Krishna is the supreme authority is accepted by the whole world. Not only the present, but from time immemorial. And only who is rejecting his authority? The demons are rejecting his authority. So, anyway, since Krishna is the authority accepted by all, Arjuna put this question before him in order that Krishna would describe himself without being depicted by the demons who always try to distort him in an ununderstandable way to the demons and their followers. It is necessary that everyone for his own interest know the science of Krishna. Therefore, when Krishna himself speaks about himself, it is auspicious for all the worlds. To the demons, such explanations by Krishna himself may appear to be strange because the demons always study Krishna from their own standpoint of view. But those who are devotees heartily welcome. This is very important. They welcome the statements of Krishna. And why they will welcome? Because this is Krishna's Vani. When they are spoken by Krishna himself, the devotees will worship such authoritative statements of Krishna because they are always eager to know more and more about him. And the atheist who consider Krishna an ordinary man may in this way come to know that Krishna is a superhuman, that he is Sachidananda Vigraha, the eternal form of. So, what will a devotee act like? He will definitely, a devotee of Krishna like Arjuna is undoubtedly above any misunderstanding of the transcendental position of Krishna. This is a very important statement, that if I am a devotee of Krishna, I will never have any misunderstanding about Krishna. I will never envy Krishna. I will never oppose Krishna or his statements, because Krishna's statements can never be misleading, can never be, untrue. Krishna's statements are always for the betterment of his devotees. Krishna's words are always to bring the souls back home, back to Godhead. Krishna's words are just like the father's word, giving good advice to his children for their own upliftment, for their own happiness. And that is why we say Vani, Krishna's Vani. And see, you say, why is the Bhagavad Gita? This is the Gita of the Lord. So what is the difference between Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam? Bhagavad Gita is the Vani incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Okay. And the Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. It speaks about Krishna and his devotees. So Bhagavad Gita is the Vani of Krishna. The Bhagavatam is the relationship between Krishna and his devotees. So that is why both these granthas are non-different than Krishna. Arjuna's putting this question before the Lord is simply an attempt by the devotee to defy the atheistic attitude of persons who consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. Krishna is not subject to the modes of material nature. He is beyond the modes. He is beyond time. Okay. So this is what is being said in this particular shloka. Let's go to the next shloka. So now Krishna will start answering Arjuna's question. The question that he's asking in this fourth shloka, because now Arjuna is asking for the benefit of others, and Krishna is giving this opportunity to speak. Arjuna gives this opportunity to Krishna to speak directly about himself in the subsequent verses. And in these subsequent shlokas, at least to the 10th shloka, Krishna will reveal his transcendental position about his birth and his activities. And he speaks about his appearance, he speaks about his disappearance, he speaks about his activities, he speaks about the reason for his descent, that why does he come, when does he come, and why does he come. Okay, so he speaks about it in the subsequent, and then he speaks about that. What does he speak about? I'm sorry. He speaks about his appearance, he speaks about his disappearance, he speaks about his activities, the reason of his descent, and then he talks about if anybody knows about his appearance, disappearance, his activities, the reason of his descent, then what is the result? Then he's saying that this result of knowing all this is his transcendental birth and activities. Punarjanma na vidyate. He will never take a birth in this material world. So if you see now this next two shlokas, the 5th shloka and the 6th shloka is going to compare. There's a comparison between Krishna and the conditioned living entities. So let's see. So Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tava cha Arjuna tanyaham vedam sarvani na tvam vetha parantapaha. The personality of Godhead said, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. O subduer of the enemy. So this is the first difference, that I do not remember anything. Okay. Sorry. I remember everything. And Arjuna, you don't remember your past birth. I remember the past, present, and future. Okay. Because he's Achyuta. Achyuta means who never forgets. He's never infallible. Right. And the conditioned souls are eternal, but they are forgetful also. And that is why Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 15th chapter, 15th shloka, he says that Sarvachitam Ridi Sanvishtam Matta Smritir Jnana Apohanam cha. From me only comes remembrance, and from me only comes forgetfulness, and from me only comes knowledge. So Krishna remembers all these births because Krishna's body does not change, or Krishna's body is not avyayam, or it is not it does not deteriorate. But a living condition forgets because his body keeps on changing and the living entity's body keeps on deteriorating. And Krishna says, let's see the purport actually, that will be more better because a lot is written in Krishna's, in Srila Prabhupada's purport. So in the Brahma Samhita, Brahmaji says that Advaitam Achyutam Anadi Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So he says that I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person, who is the Adi person. Okay. And this Adi person is who is absolute, infallible, and without the beginning. Anadim Adim. And although expanded into unlimited forms. So, Advaitam, he is absolute. Achyutam, he is infallible. He is Anadim, he is without a beginning. And although expanded into unlimited forms, Ananta Rupam. Ananta Rupa means although expanded into unlimited forms, he is still the same original. Adyam Purana Purusham. Adyam, he is still the same original. And the oldest and the person always appearing as fresh youth. Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha. Though he is the oldest, he is appearing as Navayovanam cha, appearing as a fresh youth. Such eternal, blissful, all-knowing forms of the Lord are usually not understood even by the Vedic scholars. So, Vedeshu Durlabham, Adurlabhan, Atma Bhakto. So, who are these Atma Bhakto people? Those who are Vedic scholars, the best of the Vedic scholars. What do? They are not able to understand, know that this is an eternal and blissful. Vedeshu Durlabham Atma Bhakto. So they are not able to even understand, but they are always manifest to pure unalloyed devotees. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Vedeshu Durlabham. So Durlabham means what? Others ke liye it is not accessible, but for the Atma Bhaktas, those who consider Krishna as his own, then for them it is Adurlabha, means it is easily accessible. And then Brahma also says further in Brahma Samhita ki Rama di Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishthan Nana Vataram Akarod Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramah Pumanyo Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So then I worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And who is he? Who is always situated in various incarnations as Ram, Narsimha, and many sub-incarnations as well. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishthan. But who is the original personality? Nana Avataram Akaroda, Bhuvaneshu Kintu. Many sub-incarnations as well. But who is the original personality of Godhead known as Krishna and who incarnates personally? So, Krishna Swayam, original, Sambhavat, Paramaha, Pumanyoho. Such a person I worship, and such a person I worship Krishna. Okay. So in the Vedas also it is stated that Lord, although one without a second, manifests himself in innumerable forms. He is like the Vaidurya stone, touchstone, which changes color still remains the same. All those multiforms are understood by the pure unalloyed devotees, but not by simple study of the Vedas. Vedeshu Durlabham Adarlabham Atma Bhakta. Devotees like Arjuna are constant companions of the Lord, and whether the Lord incarnates, the associate devotees also incarnate in order to serve in different capacities. Arjuna is one of these devotees, and in this verse it is understood that some million years ago, when Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vivaswan, Arjuna in a different capacity was also present there. But the difference between the Lord and Arjuna is that the Lord remembered the incident, whereas Arjuna could not remember. That is the difference between the part and the parcel living entity and the Supreme Lord. Although Arjuna is addressed herein as the mighty hero who could subdue the enemies, he is unable to recall what happened in his previous births. Therefore, living entity, however he may be in the material estimation, can never equal the Supreme Lord. Anyone who is a constant companion of the Lord is certainly a liberated person, but he cannot be equal to the Lord. The Lord is described in the Brahma Samhita as infallible, Achyuta. So, which means that he never forgets himself, even though he is in material contact. Therefore, the Lord and the living entity can never be equal in all respects, even if the living entity is as liberated as Arjuna. I think I have a table where it is saying that, which is distinguishing Krishna from the living entity. I'll pass it down. Just remind me on the WhatsApp. Although Arjuna is a devotee of the Lord, he sometimes forgets the nature of the Lord, but by the divine grace of a devotee, can at once understand the infallible condition of the Lord, whereas a non-devotee or a demon cannot understand the transcendental nature. Consequently, these descriptions in the Gita cannot be understood by demonic brains. Krishna remembered acts which were performed by him millions of years before. But Arjuna could not, despite the fact that both Krishna and Arjuna are eternal in nature. We may also note herein that a living entity forgets everything due to his change of body. But the Lord remembers because he does not change his Sachidananda body. He is Advaita, which means there is no distinction between his body and himself. Everything in relation to him is spirit, whereas the conditioned soul is different from his material body. And because the Lord's body and him and self are identical, his position is always different from that of an ordinary living entity, even when he descends to this material platform. So there is no distinction between his body and himself. Okay, fine. The demons cannot adjust themselves to this transcendental nature of the Lord, which the Lord himself explains in the following verse. So now in the next verse also, there is another distinction. Let's see the next verse. So now he's saying that Ajo api sanyan avyatyatma bhutanam ishvaro api snan prakritim swam adhishtayah sambhavami atma mayaya. So what is he saying? That Ajaha. What is Krishna? Krishna is Ajaha, unborn. And api means although, and avyaya, like, the human body will deteriorate, but Krishna's body does not deteriorate. That is called avyaya. And he is sambhavami. He incarnates and atma mayaya by his own internal energy. So although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, so he is the Lord of all, he is the Ishvaraha, Lord of all the living entities. So then I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. So this is what Krishna is saying in the so now Krishna is, so Prabhupada is saying that the Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth, although he may appear like an ordinary person. To ordinary people, he may say that, like Duryodhan always said, he is a Gwala. So for Duryodhan, though in that particular assembly, Krishna showed his Vishwarupa, but still, because his eyes were not pointed with the love of God, he was not able to see his Vishwarupa at all. And others who were sitting in that assembly, those who had love for Krishna, they were able to see the Vishwarupa form. So the Lord has spoken about the peculiarity of his birth. Although he may appear like an ordinary, he remembers everything of his many past births, whereas a common man cannot remember what he has done even a few years before. If someone is asked what he did exactly at that time, same time, one day earlier, he would be very difficult. Like for example, if I ask you, yesterday, what did you all have for lunch? So, or 1 month before, the same time, what were you all doing? It is difficult to remember, or even for me also. He would surely have to, derage his memory to recall. what he was doing exactly at the same time one day before. And yet men often claim to be God. There are many people who say, I am God. So if you are God, then why do you age? If you are God, then why do you have a toothache? If you are God, then why do you age? If you are God, then why are you not young all your life long? So one should not be misled by such meaningless claim. Then again, the Lord explains his prakriti or his form. Prakriti means nature as well as swarupa or one's own form. The Lord says that he appears in his own body. So even in Dwapar Yuga, he came in his own original form, right? It is not like that like for example, if I'm on the 40th floor of a building and if I take an elevator to come down, so I come straight down from the elevator to the zero level, to the ground floor. Similarly, Krishna came as he was in Dwapar Yuga. So he came in his own original form. So the Lord says that he appears in his own body. He does not change his body. So this is the another difference. He appears in his own original form. And the living entity changes from one body to another body. This is another distinction about the Supreme Lord. The conditioned soul may have one kind of body in the present birth, but he has different body in the next birth. In the material world, the living entity has no fixed body, but transmigrates from one body to another. The Lord, however, does not do so whenever he appears. He does in his same original body by his internal potency. In other words, Krishna appears in this material world in his original eternal form with two hands, holding a flute. He appears exactly in his eternal body, uncontaminated by his material world, this material world. So see, now we are talking about Dwapar Yuga. So when he came in Dwapar Yuga, he came in his exactly eternal body that he has. Okay. But when he comes in other millennium, like when he came in Varaha Avatar or Kurma Avatar or Matsya Avatar, so the quality was the same, or the power that Krishna has was the same. Like for example, he came over there in those incarnations to serve a particular purpose. Okay, when he came as Varaha Avatar, he came to solve a particular purpose that Mother Earth had submerged in the Garbhodaka ocean. And then he as Varaha, he lifted, right? Or in the Matsya Avatar, he came to actually save the Vedas. Or in the Kurma Avatar, he came for, doing that Samudra Manthan. So to solve that particular purpose, he came. But now when he is coming in Dwapar, he is coming to give enjoyment to his devotees. He is coming to give, coming to protect Dharma. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry. So he comes exactly in his own original form as Krishna himself. And although he appears in the same transient body and is the Lord of the universe, it still appears that he takes his birth like an ordinary living entity. So he is not ordinary. You might think that, oh, Supreme Lord in Vrindavan, he's playing with the cowherd boys. The cowherd boys are climbing on his shoulders. He's climbing on the shoulder of the cowherd boys, and the cowherd boys are slapping him. And he's, very sweetly, taking that slap. Or the cowherd boys, Krishna is snatching from the mouth of the cowherd boys their morsel and he's putting it in his mouth. Or the cowherd boys are snatching it from his mouth and they're taking. people might think that he's an ordinary living entity. But no, he's not an ordinary living entity. Imagine the rights that the cowherd boys or the gopis or Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj has, that Krishna is taking the chappals of Nanda Maharaj on his head and he's moving ahead. You know, when Nanda Maharaj says that, please bring my chappals. So Krishna, very small Krishna, is holding the chappals on his hand, on his head, and he's taking. Some people might think, like, for example, in our young age, if my father told me that please bring my chappals, I was very happily, taking the chappals, on my head, and I was taking it for my father. I remember that. But this is ordinary, and people might think that this is an ordinary act. Any child will do it for his father. So they might think that Krishna is an ordinary living being. But no, here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he is carrying chappals of Nanda Maharaj on his head. Whereas Nanda Maharaj is the servant of the Supreme Lord. But in the spiritual world, there is no distinction between the Shakti and the Shaktiman. There is equality. The Supreme Lord forgets his supremacy. And the Brajavasis forget that Krishna is supreme. And there is a pure, pure relationship between the Brajavasis and Krishna. So for Mother Yashoda, Krishna is only her Lalla, is only her small child. And she thinks that in every way I have to protect my child. Though Krishna is Atmaram, Krishna does not need anybody's protection. Krishna is the protector of all the living entities. But Krishna is still accepting Mother Yashoda's love, that yes, a mother is supposed to protect the child. And while Mother Yashoda is protecting Krishna, Krishna does not think that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I don't need your protection, Mother. No. He's equally reciprocating that protection of Mother Yashoda towards him. So this is Krishna in the spiritual world. And who will understand these leelas of the spiritual world? That Krishna is ready to take even a menial position in front of his devotees. Or his devotees forget his supremacy and serve him in pure Vatsalya Bhav, pure Sakhya Bhav, or pure Dasya Bhav, or pure Madhurya Bhav. The gopis do not know Krishna is the Supreme. And they love him very selflessly. So, this is very difficult to understand. It is very inconceivable to understand. But only the devotees of Krishna can understand, and not any ordinary living entity can understand this. And although his body does not deteriorate like a material body, it still appears that Lord Krishna grows from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth. But astonishingly enough, he never ages beyond youth. So, Prabhupada is mentioning at the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra, he had many grandchildren at home. 16,108 wives. And those 108 wives had 10 children. So 16 lakh children plus children. And then they are also grandchildren. So Krishna was a grandfather by that time. Or in other words, he had sufficiently aged by material calculation. What was his age? 125 years on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Still, he looked like a young man of 20 or 25 years old. Right? So we never see a picture of Krishna in old age because he never grows old like us. Although he is the oldest in the creation, past, present, future, neither his body nor his intelligence ever deteriorates or changes. Therefore, it is clear that in spite of his being in the material world, he is the same unborn eternal form of spiritual bliss and knowledge, changeless in his transcendental body and intelligence. Factually, his appearance and disappearance are like the sun's rising, moving before us and then disappearing from our eyesight. When the sun is out of sight, we think the sun has set. And when the sun is before our eyes, we think the sun is on the horizon. Actually, the sun is always in its fixed position, but owing to a defective sufficient senses, we calculate the appearance and disappearance of the sun in the sky. And because Lord Krishna's appearance and disappearance are completely different from that of any other common living entity, it is evident that he is eternal blissful knowledge by the internal potency, and he is never contaminated by the material nature. So Krishna is beyond the modes. So Vedas also confirm that he is unborn, yet he still appears to take birth in multi-manifestations. The Vedic supplementary literatures also confirm that even though the Lord appears to be taking his birth, he is still without change. In the Bhagavatam, he appears before his mother as Narayana with four-handed. If you see, when he was born, he appeared before his mother as Narayana with four hands and decorations of 6 kind of opulences. His appearance in his original eternal form is causeless because bestowed upon the living entities so that they can concentrate on the Supreme Lord as he is and not on mental concoctions or imaginations, which the impersonalists wrongly think the forms to be. The word Maya or Atma Maya refers to the Lord's causeless mercy. According to the Vishwakosha dictionary, the Lord is conscious of all his previous appearances and disappearance, but the common living entity is forgetful. And therefore, the Lord is always the same absolute truth and is without differentiation between the form or the self or between his quality and the body. Now a question may be raised as to why the Lord appears and disappears in this world. So it will be answered in the next verse. What is the purpose of the Lord's appearance? Okay. So Krishna says that I appear yada yada hi dharmasya glanar bhavati bharat abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam. So he says that whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principles or descendant of Bharata, a prominent rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna says that Srijami. So Srijami cannot be used in the sense of creation because according to the previous verse, there is no creation of the Lord's form or body. Since all the forms are eternally existent. Therefore, Srijami means the Lord manifests himself. Prakat hote hai. You know, अपने मर्जी से प्रकट होते हैं, अपने मर्जी से अप्रकट भी हो जाते हैं. So he is manifesting and he disappears also. He unmanifests himself. Although Lord appears on schedule, namely at the end of the Dwapar Yuga or the 25th. So this is a history, like how Krishna, when Krishna appeared, which millennium did he appear, and did he adhere to certain rules and regulations? No, he's completely free to act as on his own will, right? So therefore, he appears by his own will wherever there is a prominence of irreligiosity and a disappearance of true religion. So these are the purpose of the Vedas, is to establish the principles. From the Bhagavatam, we understand the Lord Buddha is an incarnation. So this is actually why does he appear? Because of his appearance and disappearance. So see, therefore, each and every avatar or incarnation of the Lord has a particular mission, and they are all described in revealed scriptures. So in the Bhagavatam, it is described. All the 10 avatars are described in the Bhagavatam. It is not a fact that the Lord appears only on Indian soil. He can manifest himself anywhere and everywhere. And wherever he desires to appear in each and every incarnation, he speaks much about religion as can be understood by the particular people under their particular circumstances. Okay. But the mission is the same, to lead people to God consciousness and obedience to the principles of religion. So this is the mission of the Supreme Lord, to lead people to God consciousness and obedience to the principles of religion. So what he does, sometimes he comes personally, sometimes he sends his bona fide representatives. So the principles of Bhagavad Gita were spoken to Arjuna, and for that matter only to other highly elevated person, because he was highly advanced compared to ordinary persons in other parts of the world. See, the whole purpose of the mission of incarnation is to arouse Krishna consciousness everywhere. Such consciousness is manifest and non-manifest only under different circumstances. This is an important statement. So, now the purpose is being given. Okay, so we saw that about his appearance and his disappearance, and then now we are speaking about his activities and yada yada hi dharmasya. So wherever there is a decline in religion and then a prominent rise in religion, I come then. Then why do I come? It will be answered in the next shloka. He says that now what is the purpose of Krishna's coming to this material? Paritranay sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So now to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants. Actually, to deliver the pious means what? To give enjoyment to his devotees, he comes, and to annihilate the wrongdoers, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium. So, according to Bhagavad Gita, a sadhu, a holy man, is a man in Krishna consciousness. Sadhu. A person may appear to be irreligious, but if he has the qualification of Krishna conscious wholly and fully, he is said to be understood to be a sadhu. See, he may appear irreligious, matlab kya, externally, but if he has the qualification of Krishna consciousness wholly and fully, then he is to be understood as sadhu. And dushkritam applies to those who do not care for Krishna consciousness, who do not care only for Krishna, who do not care for self-realization. And for such miscreants or dushkritam are described as foolish and the lowest of mankind. Namam dushkrita na mudha naradhama. So Krishna says in the 7th chapter also. So these are the foolish people, lowest of the mankind. And even though they may be decorated with mundane education, mundane scholars, philosophers, whereas a person who is 100% engaged in Krishna conscious is accepted as a sadhu or an intelligent person, even though such a person may either be learned, even though such a person may be neither learned nor well cultured, as far as the atheistics are concerned, it is not necessary for Supreme Lord to appear as he is to destroy them, and as he did with the demon like Ravana and Kamsa. So see, Krishna sitting in his own abode, if with the blink of his eye, he can create this cosmic manifestation, cannot he, kill the demons just by the blink of his eye, right? But then he comes to give pleasure to his devotees, and then to actually destroy these demons like Ravana and Kamsa. The Lord has many agents who are quite competent to vanish demons, but the Lord especially descends to appease his unalloyed devotees who are always harassed by the demonic. So this is a personal reciprocation of Krishna with his unalloyed devotees, that okay, you are being harassed, I am there for you. Okay, I am a loving friend, I am a loving lover to you, I am a loving master, I am a loving father to you, and I am coming to us. The demon harasses the devotee, even though the latter may happen to be his kin. Like Prahlad Maharaj was the son of Hiranyakashipu. He was nonetheless persecuted by his father. Although Devi, the mother of Krishna, was a sister of Kamsa, she and her husband Vasudeva were persecuted only by Kamsa, and Krishna was to be born on them. So the Lord appeared primarily to deliver Devaki rather than kill Kamsa. देवकी का दुख दूर करने के लिए आए थे, rather than to kill Kamsa. But both were performed simultaneously. So बोलते हैं एक तीर से दो निशान. With one arrow, then you can aim to different people or different things, rather than killing both. Therefore, it is said here that to deliver the devotee and vanquish the demon miscreants, the Lord appears in different incarnations. So even in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says that he is actually summarizing the principles of incarnation. So what he says that Shrishti Hetu Ye Murti Prapanche Avatare Se Ishvara Murti Avatara Nama Dhare Mayatita Paravyome Sabara avasthana, Vishwe avatari dhare avatara nama. So the avatar or incarnation of God descends from the kingdom of God for material manifestation. And a particular form of the personality of Godhead who so descends is called an incarnation or avatar. Such incarnations are situated in the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. When they descend to the material creation, they assume the name avatara. So there are many avatars like Purusha avatars, Guna avatars, Leela avatars, Shaktavesh avatars, Manvantar avatars, and Yuga avatars. And they have all their specific duties and specific, for specific purpose, they come at specific times. So, but he says that Lord Krishna descends for the specific purpose, mitigating the anxieties of his pure devotees who are anxious to see him in his original Vrindavan pastimes. Therefore, the prime purpose of Krishna avatar is to satisfy his unalloyed devotees. This is a very important statement. The Lord always, the Lord says that he incarnates himself in every millennium. This indicates that he incarnates also in Kali Yuga. So he has incarnated as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to propagate the Sankirtan movement and spread Krishna consciousness. And what is the proof? That because in the Bhagavatam also his incarnation has been predicted. He predicted that this culture of Sankirtan would be broadcast all over the world from town to town. Prithvidyachi Nagaradigram Sarvatra Hoila Mora Nam. Right? So then the devotees of Krishna are very much attracted to this Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya, and this avatar of the Lord does not kill the miscreants but delivers them by his causeless mercy. So Jagaya Madhai were delivered. And this avatar is the most magnanimous avatar of Krishna. And this avatar, magnanimous means bahut udar, very, liberally giving. When you say magnanimous means he's only in the mood of giving. He's not in the mood of punishing. He's not in the mood of, getting something. He's just in a mood of giving. That's called magnanimity of Krishna. And that is why you see Navdeep or the Mayapur Dham is called Audarya Dham. Audarya means there is just magnanimity. Krishna over there is only in the mood of giving. Why? Every word is a song. Every step is a dance. And even if you're sleeping in Mayapur Dham, what it is considered to be that you're doing dandavats to Krishna. Krishna is taking it that way. So that is the magnanimity of Krishna. And now the ninth shloka will speak about it is going to actually speak about the result of understanding this all knowledge of his transcendental birth and his activities, and what is the result if somebody is knowing about his appearance and his disappearance. The 9th shloka and the 10th shloka will primarily speak about this. So I'll just wind up with these two shlokas, but these are very relishing shlokas. So that is why I'm sorry at the end of 2 hours who can relish, but please just hold on your horses for at least another 10 to 15 minutes, because these two shlokas are the most relishable shlokas, which even I relish and many other devotees also relish. So this is a nice Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tyatvatah tyakpa deham punarjanma neti mameti. So Arjuna, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and disappearance and activities does not upon leaving the body take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So if you see that, what is the importance of Krishna, appearing in this world, or if I have this particular knowledge that yes, Krishna appeared personally, his activities are also for the pleasure of Krishna, what will be the result? of getting this knowledge. So the Lord's descent from this transcendental abode is already explained in 6th verse. One who can understand the truth of appearance of the personality of Godhead is already liberated from material bondage, and therefore he does not return to the kingdom of God immediately after quitting his present body. So this is such liberation of the living entity must from material bondage is not at all easy. The impersonalists and the yogis attain liberation only after much trouble and many births. So even then the liberation they achieve merging into the impersonal Brahman is only partial, and there is a risk of returning back to the material world. You go to the Brahma Jyoti, you come back to this material world. And Punarmushika Bhava, that story we know. But the devotee simply by understanding the transcendental nature of the body and activities of the Lord attains the abode of the Lord after ending this body and does not run the risk of returning back to the material world. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said that Advaita Achyutam Anadi Ananta Rupam. Although there are many transcendental forms, they are still one. One has to understand this fact with conviction, although it is incomprehensible to mundane scholars. So then he says that simply by accepting this truth on faith, one can without a doubt attain liberation. The Vedic version from Tattvamasi is actually applied in this case. Anyone who understands Krishna to be the supreme, or who says unto the Lord, you are the same supreme Brahman, the personality of God, it is certainly liberated instantly, and consequently his entrance into the transcendental association of the Lord is guaranteed. In other words, such a faithful devotee of the Lord attains perfection, and this is confirmed in the Vedic version. Tvam eva viditvati mrityum eti nanya pantha vidyate anyanya. One can attain the perfect stage of liberation from birth and death simply by knowing the Lord, the Supreme Person of Godhead, and there is no other way to achieve any perfection. So there is no alternative mean that anyone who does not understand Lord Krishna as Supreme Personality is surely in the mode of ignorance, and consequently he will not attain the salvation. It's just like licking the bottle of honey from outside, and all these philosophers and all, they will be. So one should therefore cultivate Krishna consciousness with faith and knowledge, and in this way attain perfection. So faith and knowledge. That is why in the beginning only, Prabhupada in this introduction, he's saying that you at least assume, like in algebra, you assume that let the value of x be equal to so, and the value of y be equal to so, and that is why we prove that x is equal to y. So in the beginning only, we ask devotees to assume that Krishna is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You go with this mindset, and definitely by the end of the Bhagavad Gita, you yourself will say that yes, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he's saying that Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mam Upashita Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Puta Mad Bhava Agatah. So he is saying that anybody who is freed from attachment, fear, and anger, and who is fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me. So, when a person is freed from attachment, fear, and anger, so attachment only is leading to fear, and that fear brings out anger. So that is why anybody who is this, they will attain, what will they attain? They will attain transcendental love of me. As described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Lord. Generally, those who are too attached to the bodily conception of life are absorbed in material things, and it is impossible for them to understand the Supreme Lord. And then such materials cannot even imagine this transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, Satchidananda. Okay. So, therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed about the personal form of the Lord. So then such materialistic people do not understand the Supreme Lord. When they are informed of that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid. Arre baapre, sab kuch chhodna padega. So that is why, these people are like, bubbles. They born, they die, they born, they die. And they are into a fearful stage also. Prabhupada is explaining Vitarag, Bhaya, and Krodha also. And then those who cannot understand the spiritual existence, then they are too much, they are too much into philosophical speculation, and then they become disgusted. Because they become disgusted, they are angry also. And then they actually reject. Such people are in a diseased condition. Bimar vyakti. Rog se bhaye. So that is why Prabhupada is saying that if one is getting rid of all these three stages, okay, attachment to material life, fear of spiritual personal identity, and conception of void, that arises from frustration in life. So to get free from these three stages of material conception, what is the solution? One has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by a bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines and regulative principles of devotional life. The last stage of devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of God. And then that is why he's saying that bhavo, he's saying that Vit Raga Bhaya Krodha and Mat Mayaha in me fully, Upashrita, being fully situated in me. And that is why when he reaches to this bhava stage, okay, so then when he reaches to the bhava stage, then that is completely. So Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu is also saying that there are stages. Adav Shraddha, Tatha Sadhu Sangha, Tatha Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and then Nishtha, Ruchi, and Asakti, Bhava. Okay. Tatha Prema. And Sadhakam Ayam Premanaha. So then all these stages are there. These are actually the ladders, you can say. Then in the Prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of devotional service under the guidance of born spirit, one can attain the highest stage of being freed from material attachment, from fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustration that result in void fulfillment. Then one can immediately attain the abode of the Supreme Lord. So if you see in these two shlokas, we're saying that if somebody will know about this transcendental knowledge, that the Supreme know about his appearance, disappearance, the reasons of his descent, his activities, then he'll be absorbed in Krishna. He'll become purified also. He'll be freed from attachment. He'll be freed from fear and anger also. And when he'll be free from all these things, where will he go? He will go back home, back to Godhead, and then Punar Janma na vidyate. He will not have to take material birth again and again. He will be directly promoted to the supreme abode of the Supreme Lord. So that is why if you see in all these shlokas, there are different degrees also. So different degrees, like, so when you have raga, then you have strong attachment to material life, and that is going to lead you to negligence of spiritual life. And then you will have fear. Fear of what? Fear of spiritual identity. And then you will have krodha. So all these sections that are there, because see, actions will be transcendental only when we execute them in full knowledge that yes, Krishna is the supreme goal of all paths, and he's only the awarder of all the results of my work. And by hearing about Krishna, many people, he's actually now see, Krishna further also will give a testimony that many people have become purified in the past. So somebody might ask, that, okay, what is the proof? Then he will give the proof in the next subsequent chapters, that how to apply this particular transcendental knowledge and who are those people who have, applied this transcendental knowledge and have got different realization. And he'll give also those different levels of realization also, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagwan realizations also. So, okay, as promised, I have winded up in 10 minutes. And if anybody has any questions, queries, doubts, you're free to ask me.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Kalyani.
Mataji, means Lord's appearance and appearances are fixed and they are given in the Vedas, but we also say that Lord appear by his own will. So how to understand that thing?
Yeah, see, in the Vedas, there are calculations given that the Lord will appear in so and so millennium, at the end of this millennium, or the mid of this millennium, or the beginning of this millennium. But many times, because of urgency also, what happens is he can come out of urgency also. Like, when the Mother Earth was submerged, right out of urgency, he immediately came, right? Or sometimes quickly also, either he will come or he will send his, he will send his specially empowered devotees also. So though they are scheduled incarnations, and it is not like that because it is scheduled, he has to come. But no, Krishna comes from his own will also. ये उनकी मर्जी है, because the Vedas also coming from him only, right? From him only is coming the Vedas, and in the Vedas only it is written that Krishna is having these scheduled incarnations, and they will be coming in so and so millennium, at the end or the beginning or the middle of these incarnations. But many times he is coming out of his own free will also. He is not bound. We don't say that aapko aana hi padega. Not that way. He comes out of his own free will also, like that way. Okay. Nobody forces him to come. Any more questions on this?
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, yeah. Shanti Mataji, आपके पास कोई है प्रश्न? You're smiling. Shanti Mataji is very enthusiastic. She's attending English Bhakti Shastri also and Hindi Bhakti Shastri also. Both the days she's attending, and many of the other classes also of mine. She's attending those also. Any more questions anybody has?
Mataji,
Yes.
can I ask one more question?
Yes, yes, yes.
Mataji, means Arjuna, means the disciplic succession was again established by Krishna, starting from Arjuna. Then that disciplic succession, that chain is also still going on, or it is the same one which in which we belong?
Yes, 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 yes. You have the English Bhagavad Gita in your hand just now?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, open to one page where the disciplic succession is given. It is, I think, right after the introduction or before the introduction, that there is a list of, what do you say, disciplic succession devotees are there. Right from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to, Srila Prabhupada, it is given. Mila?
Yes, Mataji, but then the disciplic succession, the chain of disciplic succession established by Krishna from starting from Arjuna. So what about that succession?
Yes, from there only, from there only all our acharyas are also taking as it is only, So that chain is only continuing. From 5,000 years ago, that only chain is continuing till Srila Prabhupada, and then now ahead from Srila Prabhupada, so it will continue.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Anybody else has any queries?
Hare Krishna Mataji. One question, Mataji. So currently, means who is the Manu? That time it was Vivaswan, right? So, so that like it's same Manu continuing right now, or there is a change, like because as one day of Brahma, I think there are 14 Manu gets changed, right? So it's same Manu is continuing now, Vivasvat Manu, or it's a Vivaswan Manu or Vivasvat Manu are different, or it's same?
No, it is Vaivasvat Manu currently.
It's a not Vivaswan, right? After Vivaswan,
no.
it's Vivaswan.
Currently,
Oh, okay.
the current universe is, by the seventh Manu is the Vaivasvat Manu.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Vaivasvat was actually the king of Dravida, because there was a big flood. And he was warned by that flood by the Matsya avatar of Vishnu. And then he built a boat, and then he carried the Vedas and Manu's family and all these seven sages also to safety, and they had this Matsya avatar also that way.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Any more questions anybody has? Okay, dear devotees, thank you so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrind ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.